hear the music. Hello, everybody. I'm Matt Robinson, and welcome to another exciting edition of the League Wraparound. This is the program that gets you caught up on anything and everything happening around the NFL. Coming up on this edition of the program, we preview Week 5's most important games, including Thursday Night Football between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons, and Monday Night Football between the New Orleans Saints and the Kansas City Chiefs. Plus, we have your Week 5 game picks and so much more. So again, thank you so much for tuning into the program. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the program. Before we get into Week 5's most important games, and before I give you my top 3 storylines, and also when we give you the game picks, let's recap Week 4's most important games in the NFL. Let's start off with Thursday Night Football between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. Rough game by both teams, but Dallas holds on to win 20-15. The New Orleans Saints took on the Atlanta Falcons. Another close game in the long rivalry between these two teams. Young Wei Koo's game-winning field goal gave the Falcons a 26-24 victory. The Philadelphia Eagles took on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was all Buccaneers. Tampa Bay would win 33-16. We have the Minnesota Vikings take on the Green Bay Packers. Classic NFC North rivalry game. Very close game at Lambeau Field, but the Vikings hold on to beat the Pack 31-29. The Washington Commanders took on the Arizona Cardinals. It was all Commanders led by Jaden Daniels and also the running of Brian Robinson Jr. and Jeremy McNichols. The Commanders would win 42-14. Sunday Night Football saw the Buffalo Bills take on the Baltimore Ravens. It was all Baltimore. Ravens would win 35-10. We had the Monday Night Football doubleheader. First game was the Tennessee Titans going up against the Miami Dolphins. It was all Tennessee. Titans would win 31-12. And the second game of the doubleheader saw the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Detroit Lions. The Lions and their offense were able to get the victory. Jared Goff, quarterback for the Lions, was a perfect 18 of 18, giving Detroit a 42-29 victory over the Seahawks. And those were your scores from Week 4's most important games in the NFL. All right, now it's time for my top 3 storylines. I want to start off talking about the Washington Commanders. What a difference a year makes. So far, so good. As this show is airing, the Commanders hold a record of 3-1. There's a new head coach with Dan Quinn. There's an offensive coordinator with Cliff Kingsbury. There's a solid offense, particularly the running game led by Brian Robinson Jr., also Austin Eckler, and Jeremy McNichols. You've got one of the best wide receivers in the business with Terry McLaurin. You've got a tight end in Zach Ertz, who has found the fountain of youth in D.C. And, of course, you have a quarterback who is a once-in-a-lifetime, once-in-a-generational talent with Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels has really given this team and this offense and really the fan base in Washington a new life. Jaden has done it with his arm, and he's also done it with his athletic ability. The Commanders, as this show is airing, they have a record of 3-1. And we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, and a lot of people pick the Eagles to win the NFC North. I don't know. By the way things are looking right now, it appears to me that Washington, knock on wood, if everything holds up well, they may win the NFC East. We're seeing struggles offensively with Philadelphia. We've seen injuries occurring with Dallas. The Giants, defensively, they're strong. They have a great offensive line. Can't run the ball, and the quarterback situation is very dicey. Right now, Washington, they have command. No pun intended. They have command in the top of the NFC East. So they're getting it done not just with Jaden Daniels, but also with the great coaching with Dan Quinn and also with Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator. And also big ups also to the defensive coordinator, Joe Witt Jr. You've got Frankie Louvu, who's been playing well at the linebacker position. You've also got Bobby Wagner, who has found a new life, the fountain of youth in the nation's capital. So knock on wood, everything holds up. The Commanders have a chance to not only be a playoff team, they have an opportunity to maybe win the NFC East. Who knows what could happen? But right now, the Commanders, they're on a winning streak right now, and it appears that they have no signs of slowing down anytime soon. My next storyline is going to be the Baltimore Ravens. So the Baltimore Ravens, they did damage on the Buffalo Bills on Sunday night. A lot of Lamar Jackson and a whole lot of Derrick Henry. That was a masterclass in terms of running the football. Derrick Henry rushed for over 200 yards. Just was a complete monster out there. And I think that was what the doctor ordered for Baltimore's offense to get over the hump. The Dallas Cowboys had a chance to get Derrick Henry during the offseason. Jerry Jones recently said that Derrick would have cost them too much money. Baltimore pulled the trigger. They wind up getting Derrick. And so far, so good. Again, they've won 2 games in a row as this show is airing. And we know Lamar Jackson's going to be Lamar, doing his thing, throwing the ball and running the ball. But Derrick Henry has been like a secret weapon for the Ravens, especially in that Sunday night performance and putting on that masterclass of a game and taking care of business, beating the Buffalo Bills. And a lot of people, including myself, were shocked because I knew Baltimore's defense was going to bring it, but only allowing Buffalo to score 10 points. Hey, Baltimore, you know their MO. They're built for this. They're built to run the ball, and they're built to play defense. John Harbaugh getting his team together. They're starting to get everything together, starting to get everything in line. And, hey, if Baltimore continues to play like this, who knows what's going to happen. And I've got a feeling they're going to play Kansas City again. It's just a matter, will it be in Baltimore or will it be at Arrowhead? Only time will tell. It's going to be a long season. And for my last storyline is going to be the Minnesota Vikings. So, yes, the Minnesota Vikings remain undefeated as this show is airing, currently with a record of 4-0. They had a close victory over their longtime rival Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. Sam Darnold had a mild injury. He limped for periods of the game. He was able to finish. And not just with Sam Darnold, but there were a lot of other players that really helped out in this contest. Justin Jefferson was Justin Jefferson, making out-of-this-world catches, making dazzling plays. But how about Aaron Jones? What a unique signing this was for the Vikings. Not only did they sign one of the best running backs in the league, but they signed someone that once played for the rival, one of the rivals in the NFC North, being the Green Bay Packers. Sam Darnold, if everything holds up well and he can stay healthy for most of the season, he could have a chance to be a candidate for the league MVP, or perhaps maybe be a candidate for comeback player of the year. Sam Darnold has just taken everybody by surprise, including myself. When you have Sam Darnold, you have Aaron Jones, and, of course, Justin Jefferson. You've also got Jordan Addison recently returning from injury. And defensively, Minnesota has been pretty effective. Harrison Smith, the tried-and-true veteran, also Stephon Gilmore and company. Minnesota, I don't see them letting up anytime soon. They're going to have a lot of challenges now that we're in October, and the schedule is going to get a little bit tougher from here on out. The Vikings, they've held their own so far, and now they've got to hold it together as we march into October. All right, those are my top 3 storylines. Now let's preview Week 5's most important games in the NFL. Thursday Night Football, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Atlanta Falcons. So for the Buccaneers, dominating performance in their victory over the Philadelphia Eagles. Baker Mayfield played very well. Offensively, the Bucs were on point. For the Falcons, and an emotional win over a longtime rival, the New Orleans Saints. Younghoe Koo kicked the game-winning field goal. For the Falcons, in the game against the Saints, no offensive touchdowns in this contest, but Again, it was Atlanta's defense that was able to make plays. They were able to pay off big dividends for that team. So the Falcons, they have another home game, this time against another division rival. I think the difference is going to be between, as opposed with the Saints, with the Buccaneers, is that the Buccaneers offense has really been on point in this early part of the year. Baker Mayfield has been finding his targets like Mike Evans. Also, Rachaad White has played well. Bucky Irving particularly has made some plays for Tampa Bay this early part of the year. Also, Chris Godwin, Cade Otton, just to name a few. Trey Palmer's been very well. And then the defense, as I stated earlier, for Tampa Bay has been really effective, like Levante White and company, Vita Vea, also Anthony Nelson, just to name a few. So this is going to be a raucous crowd down in the ATL in an NFC South rivalry game, Thursday Night Football, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. We have the NFL International Series in London between the New York Jets and the Minnesota Vikings. So for the Vikings, a close victory over their rival team, the Green Bay Packers. They went to Lambeau Field. Minnesota dominated early. The Packers came close to staging a comeback, but the Vikings, they made enough plays, and their defense got them through some key to give Minnesota a victory. As for the New York Jets, a disappointing performance over the Denver Broncos, losing in that game 10-9. No offensive touchdowns. Bo Nix only had like over 60 yards of passing in this game, and the Jets still could not win the game. Aaron Rodgers and head coach Robert Saleh, is there trouble in Jersey? Is there trouble in the Meadowlands? Not at the moment, but the Jets' disappointing performance, a horrible loss to the Denver Broncos, and they're hoping to put that behind them as they travel across the pond to London in the NFL International Series with the New York Jets taking on the Minnesota Vikings. The Baltimore Ravens going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Another rivalry game in the NFC North. These two teams, when you hear about Baltimore and Cincinnati, it's hard-hitting. It's no nonsense. It's old school smash mouth football. So for the Bengals, impressive win over the Carolina Panthers, getting their first victory of the season. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase and company trying to get back to top form. As for the Baltimore Ravens, they put on a masterclass in running the ball and as well as defense on Sunday Night Football, beating the Buffalo Bills. So when you think of both of these teams, it's a lot of superstars. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers and company. For Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, just to name a few. And it's going to come down really to defense, and it's going to come down to the quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. This could be must-see TV in Cincinnati with the Ravens taking on the Bengals. The Buffalo Bills square off against the Houston Texans. So for the Texans, they had a tough win. It was a tough game, but a come-from-behind victory, beating their AFC South rival, Jacksonville Jaguars. As for the Buffalo Bills, embarrassed on Sunday night at the hands of the Baltimore Ravens. So we've got Bills and Texans. I expect a lot of offense in this game. This is going to come down to the quarterbacks. Josh Allen, C.J. Stroud. It begins and ends with these two quarterbacks, I feel, in this game. Josh Allen, not a great performance against the Baltimore Ravens. He's looking to right that wrong as him and his team, they go down to H-Town to take on the Houston Texans. And as for C.J. Stroud, he's looking to continue that momentum in this game against the Buffalo Bills. So this is going to be a really intriguing matchup with the two quarterbacks, with Josh Allen and C.J. Stroud, as the Buffalo Bills take on the Houston Texans. We have the Cleveland Browns going up against the Washington Commanders. So for the Browns, they lost a tough one over the Las Vegas Raiders last week. Deshaun Watson, he said that it falls on him, and he's got to do better. And the defense has got to do better. And Cleveland, early part of the year, not looking good. And it's not going to get any better as they travel to the East Coast, particularly Landover, Maryland, to take on the Washington Commanders. And they're dealing with one of the hottest teams in the league right now, led by their quarterback, Jaden Daniels. Jaden, along with Jeremy McNichols, Brian Robinson Jr., Terry McLaurin, De'Ami Brown, Zach Ertz and company, an impressive win in the desert over the Arizona Cardinals. So this is a game that we're going to see Austin Eckler. He's expected to return after coming off of a concussion. And Cleveland, they've been solid defensively for most of the year, but they're going to have a lot to contain and a lot to try to stop because you got Jaden Daniels that can get it done throwing the ball and running the ball. And then on top of that, you have the three-headed monster in the running department with Robinson, Eckler, and McNichols. And I'm sure Washington's defense will have ways to try to neutralize Deshaun Watson and company. So this should be an interesting matchup involving the two quarterbacks with Deshaun Watson and Jaden Daniels, with the Cleveland Browns going up against the Washington Commanders. We have an AFC South showdown with the Indianapolis Colts going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So for the Colts, an impressive win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Anthony Richardson, their touted franchise quarterback, suffers a hip injury. Guess who comes in? I don't want to call him old, but old, faithful, and reliable, Joe Flacco. That's right. Joe had an amazing story last year as the backup quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson was hurt last year. Flacco comes in and takes the team to the playoffs, and this is his first year with the Indianapolis Colts, and he came in and just helped the Colts take down the Steelers. And when you think of Joe Flacco, he is your old-school NFL quarterback. Not athletic. He's in the pocket, but he's got a strong arm and an accurate arm, and he puts the ball right on the money when he has the proper protection from the offensive line. So with the Colts beating the Steelers in a close game, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they lost a close game to the Houston Texans last week. So Trevor Lawrence and company, they're looking to get a victory and try to save this early part of the season. Not only is his job on the line, but most importantly, head coach Doug Peterson, his job is on the line as well. There's reports that Shad Khan may part ways. Peterson, if not after this game, it could be maybe before the second half of the year. Who knows what's going to happen? Right now it's a dicey situation down in Jacksonville. So this is a must-win game, I believe, for the Jaguars so early in the year. So we've got an AFC South rivalry game with the Indianapolis Colts going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Sunday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys square off against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So for the Steelers, tough loss in Indianapolis to the Colts. They're looking to put that loss behind them and try to get a victory over their rival Dallas Cowboys. Mike Tomlin, when asked about the quarterback situation, it's going to be a week-to-week situation. Right now, Justin Fields has had the hot hand. He's going to run with Justin Fields until further notice. Russell Wilson will just be waiting in the wings whenever his time comes up. And as for the Dallas Cowboys, not a good win, not a great win, but a decent win over the New York Giants on Thursday night. As for Dallas, a ton of injuries. DeMarcus Lawrence will not play in this game. Micah Parsons will not play in this game. Brandon Cooks suffered an infection to his knee. He won't play in this game neither. And Dallas just has a lot of problems so far early in this part of the year. Injuries, also offensive line play has not been that good, and they can't run the ball. So it's going to be all on Dak Prescott to really make plays. Him and CeeDee Lamb are really going to be joined at the hip in this game, and they're going to need it because that's going to be a raucous crowd in downtown Pittsburgh at Heinz Field because Pittsburgh, you know their MO, running game and defense, led by T.J. Watt, who is currently one of the best in the business, and it's going to be an electric crowd at Heinz Field Acrisure Stadium. Let me get it right. It's going to be a raucous crowd at Acrisure Stadium on Sunday night with the Dallas Cowboys going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Monday Night Football, the New Orleans Saints square off against the Kansas City Chiefs. So for the Saints, a tough to a long-time rival, the Atlanta Falcons. The Saints didn't get much done on the offensive side. The offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, head coach Dennis Allen, hoping to change the fate of the Saints offense in this contest on Monday night against the Kansas City Chiefs. And Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave and company, they are going to have a tough task heading to one of the toughest, if not the toughest place to play, not just in the NFL, but in all of professional sports, one of the loudest at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium, and the Kansas City Chiefs. So with the Chiefs, Rashee Rice will be out for, they're saying, over 4 weeks. Suffered a brutal knee injury in the win over the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, as far as Rashee's prognosis is concerned, the original diagnosis was that it was feared that he had torn an ACL. Well, it turns out it's not the case. Bone bruise and a sprained PCL. They've placed him on injured reserve, so Rashee is going to be out for at least over 4 weeks. But with Kansas City, you know Patrick Mahomes. He's going to perform that Mahomes magic. He's going to do anything and everything to try to get the job done. And he's got what it takes, and he's got the receivers to do it. He's got Justin Watson. He's got Noah Gray. He's got super speedy Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster. Oh, and the tight end, Travis Kelce, right? I think Patrick will be just fine. And also, as far as the running game is concerned, Kareem Hunt is going to be solid as well. So Monday night, it is going to be a raucous, it is going to be a festive crowd in Kansas City. The New Orleans Saints, their defense, they're going to have a tough task going up against Patrick Mahomes and company. Should be a good one in Kansas City with the New Orleans Saints taking on the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs on Monday night. All right, now it's time for my game of the week. My game of the week is going to be the Dallas Cowboys going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. When you think of Cowboys and the Steelers, you think of the Super Bowls that they played in, and you also think of the legendary Hall of Famers that those organizations have produced. Roger Staubach, Drew Pearson, Tony Dorsett, Randy White, Harvey Martin, Ed Too Tall Jones. You also think about the Steel Curtain with Mean Joe Green, Jack Lambert, L.C. Greenwood, Mel Blount, also Terry Bradshaw, John Stallworth, Lynn Swann, Franco Harris. And you also think about Troy Aikman. You also think about Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Darryl Johnston, Jay Novacek. You also think about some other great Steelers players like Cordell Stewart, Greg Lloyd, Kevin Green, just to name a few. And also Ben Roethlisberger, Jerome Bettis, Ryan Clark, Troy Polamalu, James Harrison, Ike Taylor, just to name a few. Well, now we've got a new chapter in this Cowboys-Steelers rivalry. We've got Dak Prescott going up against Justin Fields. Both of these quarterbacks are different in some ways. Dak is a quarterback that's built on arm strength, but also not afraid to use his athletic ability. Justin Fields, strong arm, but doesn't mind using his athletic ability first to get a first down and then some. Dallas, their defense has not been good this year. Pittsburgh, their defense has been really good, led by T.J. Watt. Cowboys, Steelers. This is a rivalry that got its claim to fame in the 70s. They had some solid games in the 80s. The rivalry was renewed in the 90s. And they've met off and on in the 2000s and the 2010s and even in the 2020s. But it's always fun and it's always refreshing to see Cowboys and Steelers knowing the history of these franchises, particularly when these two teams have played each other in the Super Bowl. A lot of tradition and certainly more memories I expect are going to be made on Sunday night. The Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers, my game of the week. All right, before we get on out of here, I want to give you my picks on who I think will win Week 5's most important games. Thursday night football, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Atlanta Falcons. I like Tampa Bay to win. The NFL International Series game in London, the New York Jets and the Minnesota Vikings. I like the New York Jets to bounce back and give the Vikings their first loss of the year. The Baltimore Ravens going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. I like Baltimore to win. The Buffalo Bills go up against the Houston Texans. I like Houston to win. The Cleveland Browns go up against the Washington Commanders. I like Washington to win. The Indianapolis Colts square off against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like Indianapolis to win. Sunday night football, the Dallas Cowboys going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like Pittsburgh to win. Monday night football, the New Orleans Saints going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. I like Kansas City to win. So again, my picks are Tampa Bay, New York Giants, Baltimore, Houston, Washington, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, and Kansas City. And that's it. And again, thank you so much for tuning into the program. I'm Ed Robinson saying so long, you take care, and enjoy the games.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Remember to click like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.